Good evening, and welcome to Fine Point, where no narrative is sacred, no media hoax is safe, and we zero in on the big picture. I'm your host, Rion. Well, Joe Biden took a skeptical George Stephanopoulos on ABC News last weekend, and he told him that he could prove his fitness for the next 4 years on the NATO stage this week.
George, I'm the guy that put NATO together. And who's going to be able to hold NATO together like me? I guess a good way to judge me is you're going to have now the NATO conference here in the United States next week. Come listen. See what they say.
Well, we've been listening, so you don't have to. And the only thing we can absolutely confirm is that Joe Biden definitely does not do well past supper time. He started off okay by Joe Biden standards.
Today, we're stronger than we've ever been.
But it's all downhill from here. Once at dinner, the meds have worn off and his vocabulary and syntax are slipping again.
The allies in this room not only share a common language, don't share a common language, we do not share a common border, but we are neighbors. We're neighbors.
31 Euro snobs all descended onto Washington for their yearly summit. The summit known as the age-old effort to protect Europe initially from Russia. They wanted to talk global warming, global warmongering, and Russia. The tacit theme of the entire NATO summit, however, had nothing to do with Putin and everything to do with Joe Biden's health. These Eurosnobs care nothing about Joe personally. They mock him behind the scenes, laughing at his gaffes and the idiocy of his vice president, Kamala Harris. But this year, there's no laughing for the Eurosnobs. Biden's perilous deathbed condition means 4 more years of Trump. And 4 more years of Trump means the end of the profitable war against Russia. And while Biden needs to be the hero of NATO and a hero at NATO for a variety of reasons, foreign and domestic, he's anything but. After all the drum beating about his NATO prowess and telling his party that he's okay, just watch him at NATO to prove he's good to go, here's what he touts as a victory.
In the year 2020, the year I was elected president, only 9 NATO allies are spending 2% of their defense GDP on defense. This year, 23 will spend at least 2%.
But as keen observers were quick to notice, this was pure plagiarism of Trump. It was Trump who marched into NATO in 2017 and made this incredible demand. Hey, Europe, NATO's main purpose is to protect Europe, so Europe should pay.
Over the last 8 years, the United States spent more on defense than all other NATO countries combined.
Did you hear that? Paid more than everyone combined. In fact, we know that Canada, a NATO member, hasn't paid anything at all.
If all NATO members had spent just 2% of their GDP on defense last year, we would have had another $119 billion for our collective defense and for the financing of additional NATO reserves.
Remember that famous photo of Trump looking like he was the most defiant man in the Western Hemisphere? The Sunday Times put it this way. Donald Trump demanded Germany pay what it owed for defending NATO, calculated to be 300 billion pounds sterling. The Germans said they were outraged. But Trump was defiant, and he delivered the invoice. And guess what? Germany paid. NATO paid. This is what leadership looks like. And the Eurosnob globalists hated it. Why did Trump have to barge in and interrupt their 7 decades of freeloading? No one ever walked in and demanded everyone pay their fair share. Trump shamed them into doing the right thing. And he shamed them in front of the entire world. Because Trump is the art of the deal. And he is the deal maker who will never be bought. And that's why the globalists actually hate him. And now 23 NATO allies are paying at least 2% of their fair share. This is all because of Trump. And here's Biden doing what he does best. Take, and take. Take credit for something he never worked for, never accomplished, and wouldn't have the guts to accomplish in 5 lifetimes. Biden is the epitome of the modern Democrat. Even Bill Clinton was more in line with Trump's approach to reform NATO and ensure world peace. In newly declassified presidential documents, Russian President Yeltsin in March of '97 made clear Russia would oppose NATO expansion eastward, in particular NATO expansion into Ukraine. Earlier documents from Clinton's National Security Council recommended that expanding NATO without including both Ukraine and Russia would be a red line moment. And then, when Tucker Carlson sat down with Russian President Vladimir Putin in February, Putin revealed that he asked Clinton if it were a consideration for Russia to join NATO. And Bill Clinton told him it was. A few hours later, when they reconvened for dinner, Bill Clinton was told by his team he could not make any assurances, and the soft offer was rebuked. Can you imagine what course of history might have been altered had Clinton been allowed to negotiate a NATO membership for Putin? Those students of history understand Putin just wants to be part of the European club. He wants his country to be great and on the world stage, not as the enemy, but as the respected colleague. Russia has never quite been able to dust off its messy reputation since the fall of the Iron Curtain. Trump understands this. And this is why a Trump White House could very well end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours, as Trump has promised. The war would end because Trump has no tolerance for freeloaders, no tolerance for the war machine, and no tolerance for Eurosnobs who have put us in this money pit of a mess with Ukraine to begin with. Biden couldn't begin to understand any of this, even when he was sentient. The world is not the same place it was 75 years ago. When NATO was founded, NATO has at this point devolved into a very expensive and cliquey sorority. It's funded by the United States taxpayer, all so that the Europeans can meet every year and sneer at us. These European forces couldn't challenge the Girl Scouts to a fight. So unless these European forces want to get serious about defense, the United States taxpayer needs to demand we stop funding them.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.